Haters, ¿qué tal? ¿Cómo están? Les doy la bienvenida nuevamente aquí a su canal de El Hater. Espero que se encuentren muy bien. En esta ocasión, una nueva entrevista y tenemos el gran honor de tener con nosotros a Steve Janiak, quien es el actual bajista de la bandota The Gates of Slumber, la banda oriunda de Indiana en Estados Unidos, unos gigantes del doom metal quienes el día 29 de noviembre lanzarán su nuevo álbum homónimo, The Gates of Slumber, a través del sello Svart Records. Este es el regreso de la banda después de 13 años de ausencia. So, Steve, thanks a lot for being here for Conversation from the Underworld. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh,
How are
man.
you doing?
I'm pretty good, thanks. It's an honor and a pleasure to have you here to speak with such a great musician. And of course, we are talking about the new album with The Gates of Slumber, which, if I am allowed to say it, for me, at this time, it's my favorite album of the year. It completely blew my mind. Since the first song, I was just deep into this dark and crushing atmosphere, and I loved feeling so destroyed by all the pieces that form this album. So congratulations for this amazing work.
Thanks so much. We're very proud of it, and people seem to really like it, so that's always a plus. And it's been a long time coming. We recorded it, and we weren't sure. It was last year, so last September that we recorded it, and even before that, we weren't sure when we were going to be able to record. So it's a nice way to finally have all the dream of it come to realization, basically.
Yeah, man, and we are lucky that it happened because I'm telling you, from my perspective, this kind of work doesn't allow to the world of doom metal in specific to be the same because it's as much as it's based on traditional doom metal, you're bringing to life again, you're injecting so much needed life to the classic sound of the subgenre. So that definitely will mark the standard for the true, just to say something, the true doom metal bands to follow your lead. Because I mean, if you have a band like Gates of Slumber that has been around from many years, and you really want to create something that transcends time and that it can be deemed as an automatic classic, as I am deeming this album, definitely you need to listen to this album and see and hear what you guys are doing right.
Well, that's very kind, but when we're trying to create that record, there's no grand plan to do anything other than we've got to get these new songs out. We come up with ideas, and so there's no vision to write a masterpiece. It's just, this is what it is, and we're lucky if people like it at all. So to hear such kind words, it's very humbling. I know the guys are very happy that people are responding to it. So, fingers crossed that more people get a chance to hear it, because of all the interest so far. So it means a lot.
Yeah, man. Uh, for me, you can bet your house on it. I will be spreading the word about this album and sharing it with everyone I know because this album deserves to be heard and it deserves to be appreciated for what it is.
I like to think so. I'm being the new guy in the band. I've watched the band, from their beginnings and as they changed, with the new members, that each album kind of changed the sound a little bit.
Yeah.
So I was very fortunate to be asked to join when I did, and not I'm not natively a bass player. I normally have been playing guitar my whole life, so
Yeah,
it was a new adventure, and I really took to it like, you know, I really enjoy it. It's just a whole different beast for me personally, and to be able to be a part of the songcraft, that was a joy too. You know, um, I'm very fortunate, very lucky to be here, and I'm just glad that everyone can finally get a chance to hear what we've been sitting on for so long. So it's a good day to be in the Gates of Slumber.
yeah, man, definitely. You unleash and also tame that beast because if I'm allowed to say it, uh, uh, I love what McCash did in his day. I'm sorry that he's not with us anymore, but you definitely bring a whole new sound to the band, and you have, in some ways, enhanced the sound of the band. And in my review, I also say that I think that the band never sounded better, never. And I'm a big fan of the Gates of Slumber, and you certainly achieved something that I haven't heard from them since the beginning.
Well, I appreciate that. I don't know if I could ever really step into Jason's shoes and do him justice, but I just try to do the best I can and try to fit the music as best I can, and in that spirit, that same spirit that they had. You know, he wrote a lot of the music when he was in the band, and we're all writing together. So my ideas are kind of getting in there too. So I feel like, you know,
It's
it's still
reflected.
part of an extended family. I recorded the very first Gates of Slumber demo back in 2002, maybe. It was before Chuck officially joined.
Mhm.
The Sabbath Witch demo. I had a portable recording studio, and I brought it over to their rehearsal space and recorded with, it was the original lineup. It was Chris on drums and Brad on bass and Karl. And it's been it's been so long. It's been, you know, 20 22
Yeah,
years since
23
then.
here.
So if my math is holding up, yeah. But yeah, so, you know, it was interesting too to watch them be successful and go do all these tours and have all this success in Europe, and just to still be here and, you know,
Yeah,
playing music and being a fan. So I don't know, just a nice change to be in the band now. You know,
yeah, man.
as I've been a long term fan, so I, I'm just I just hope to do it justice.
You did that, man. And now that you say that, um, yeah, you definitely, I can hear that you didn't try to fill those shoes. You brought your own, and that it's all over the album. And the result is magnificent. I mean, what you're doing, even when you're not a bass player originally for this band, it sounded like you have been doing that your whole life, man. I
I
mean, the
appreciate that.
result, it's terrific.
I I I do love playing the bass. Um, I like it also because I can focus a little bit more on singing the background vocals, and there are a couple songs where I sing lead on this album,
Yeah.
and some people don't realize it's me, so that's interesting. Um, but it wasn't really planned that way. It was more or less, you know, here's some ideas I have. He said, "Why don't you sing this one?" I said, "Okay." And um, but playing the bass seems a little more freeing when it comes to singing. I don't know why. Maybe it's just the using the fingers differently, or playing more simplified parts than I'm used to doing on guitar. Um, but it, it's not something I ever really planned to do, but I I think I took to it pretty well. I enjoy it.
Yeah, man. Yeah, definitely you did it, man. Congratulations for that, man. Um, I have a question for you. And
Okay.
the question I got for you is courtesy of Henry Derek, guitarist and singer for the band Calm. And the question that he asked is this one. Well, it's not a question, it's more like a requirement. Well, he said, name 5 things that inspired you to be a place you've been, a book you like, an album you like, a film you like. Just 5 things that inspired you and help shape you in your formative years as a musician, as an artist, as a creative person. There must be 5 things that you never outgrew that forever stick with you. 5 things that encapsulates how do you go about your life as a creative person.
5 things that could be any of those different um,
Yeah.
music, film, whatever. Well, kind of put me on the spot. I think I got into like hard rock music in high school, and there were some albums that I couldn't really live without. Even to this day, they the classics. But off the top of my head, uh, that the Faith No More album, The Real Thing, was a
Okay.
big influence on me. The band Masters of Reality, their Blue Garden self-titled album. Um, the first Danzig record was a big deal to me.
Yeah.
Not so much later, but that album, uh, they all kind of came out around the same time that I was, playing guitar all the time and learning, what I loved, and just the love of passion for music, basically.
Okay.
So I need a few more. Let's see. That Rick Rubin's Trouble album that he produced, the self-titled Trouble,
Yeah.
the big hit album, I guess, for them. That was a huge album for me too. Um,
A cornerstone for the subgenre.
it was before I even knew what doom even was, right? But I think in later years, I finally rediscovered Black Sabbath. I didn't have an older brother that was into
Okay.
music, so I started with hair metal in high school, and then I progressively got into Metallica and Megadeth and Anthrax, and then everything else just kind of fell together. So, but I think maybe for the last album it'd be Kill 'Em All. So by the time I was ready for Kill 'Em All, that was I had come full circle. I didn't I didn't go straight there with the heavy metal. I kind of made my way to it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, man, of course. I mean, many people have very different paths to the sound that they are creating nowadays. Definitely, there is no a unique pack or several that are much alike. Everyone has his journey. But yeah, man, I mean, if you ask me, I was lucky because I didn't have also an older brother, but I have an uncle and a cousin, and they show me heavy metal and that stuff from like I was like 3 years old. So I was lucky, but I'm aware that not many people have that
Yeah.
facility, you know. And but
Right.
man, I also went through the hair metal stage of my life. I also did some. Now I think that it's very crappy hard rock from from the 2000s. But I mean, it all take me to where I am today. So I'm thankful for that. I'm pretty sure it happened to you as well.
Yes. I spent a lot of my allowance on cassettes. No one really listens to cassettes anymore, but I remember spending hours at the record store, and I look at every album cover to try to figure out what I wanted to buy and listen to. And I read all the magazines. Um, I think also Soundgarden was another a big album for me. That uh, is it Loud Love, Louder Than Love is the album title. Um, that is like my brain just kind of cracked open, and I melted
Okay.
down and was reformed. All the heavy stuff that was coming out of the Seattle scene at the time.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm still on that journey though, but being older, it's not doesn't have the same impact. But I love to discover new music and things that inspire or just make you feel good inside. Generally, and I'm a
Mhm.
big sucker for pop music, um, things that are catchy. I've always kind of been that way.
Yeah, there's
Uh,
definitely always something to learn from things, even if you don't like them, even if many people find them just maybe disgusting in the metal scene. But definitely, there's always something to learn from that kind of stuff that maybe many people can see as off our world.
mhm. I just like to mix it up. Um, I know me in particularly when I'm like busy with chores, I like to listen to oldies. The music from the 50s and 60s and sing along, and it kind of reminds me of being a kid riding in the car with my parents. But it seems like music has just always been a part of who I was, even before I was really playing too much.
Mhm.
There's just a power there and a strong link to memories and good times and bad. You know, trying to make your way through life. It's something people really lean on, and I feel like to be a creative person and be in a band, and even this particular genre, there's a lot of things to get out, emotions, and
Of
I
course.
like to I like to think that this new album is kind of a reintroduction of the band. You know, Chuck was in the band for the first two releases,
Yeah.
and then they parted ways. So it's kind of like a rekindling of their friendship, um, as much as it is anything else. And you can kind of hear it in the grooves of the songs. I think for
Yeah,
those two to reconnect like that.
exactly, man. Many people consider Chuck the actual first drummer of the band, even when there have been some people before him. But he definitely is part of that primordial stage of the band, and is responsible for much of the acclaim and the well the stature that they have band nowadays.
Yeah, and I
Yeah,
and
man.
I think it is interesting too because he started the Apostle of Solitude project for some songs that didn't end up with the Gates. So even before he left, he was doing Apostle of Solitude, and so being friends with him, we played a lot of shows together, and eventually I ended up joining Apostle on guitar and
Mhm.
vocals, and so just we've been playing together for a long time and really kind of understand each other musically. So when they asked about the bass position, I was like, well, yeah, I would definitely do that. But I already, had a good connection with Chuck from playing for so long and being friends for so long. Just there's a good synergy there, and I think everyone works really well together. That's been my experience so far,
Yeah, man.
and
It
everyone
sounds.
they're all
It
pretty
sounds.
pretty open to ideas too. So if you got an idea, let's hear it. Let's try to work it out.
Yeah, man, that reflects on the album. Definitely, it shows. It's a played side, man. And actually, the next question I got for you, it's kind of related to the structure of the album. And this is my question. One of the strongest aspects of the album is its simplicity. Many bands let themselves be dragged by the trends, craving progressiveness and technicality, both of them liked by many young audiences and others not so young. How do you manage to overcome these ferocious tides and keep being true to yourself?
I'm not even sure if we could do it without being true to ourselves. It's almost like we're in our own bubble of influence. We're not paying attention to anything outside. It's more like it just comes from within, and I know that from the influences that those guys have as well, to write songs in a certain doom vein, you know, in a style that is kind of subconscious of what they want to hear, you know, the kind of band they like to listen to, you know, the Obsessed or, you know, St. Vitus or, you know, stuff right in that pocket. I don't know if we could really do anything else, you know. I mean, it's about as authentic as it gets. There's no pretension. It's more like, you know, let's try to come up with the best doom tracks that, you know, that we are feeling right now. I don't know. I don't know how
The
to
best of
articulate
what
it.
we are, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The best of us.
Let's try to write the best songs that we can write, and we're not looking for influence outside of what's already there. Does that make sense?
Of course, totally, man. And it definitely it's something that not many bands, not many people have in mind while creating nowadays, because they always have in mind to always reach beyond, you know, searching for the new audience, searching for new fans. But maybe for most of the band, that kind of this creates a distortion in their sound, and they many times they lost themselves in the process trying to widen their area of influence. They kind of let down the true fans, you know, seeking for new people to add to their ranks. They lost many other people who are really true fans of their sound. And definitely it takes courage, a lot of nerve to not to in these days being true to yourself and just say this is what we are, this is what we do, and it it should be enough. It should be sufficient to keep our current fan base happy without being complacent, and also to drag some new fans to the sound of the band, because it's not an easy decision. Many people take, as I think so, the wrong decision and just transform their whole structure, their whole self, in order to fit in something in some places that they don't belong. You know?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's I kind of think back. It's when you're in the middle of writing songs, you're not necessarily thinking about it as much. Um, but it's easy to get lost and lose perspective too. And sometimes the songs come quick and just there it is. Here's this part, throw that part there. Now
Yeah.
we've got an arrangement. And then other times, I brought in the riffs for the fog, which is on the second side of the album. And I didn't have an arrangement. I wanted to try to get everyone to put their stamp on it. And
Mhm.
we played it. I demoed it up and played it just kind of three riffs back to back. And it took a few weeks to almost take it apart completely to figure out how to get the vocals in there.
Mhm.
And then Karl wrote the middle section for it. And so it became a bigger piece than I had really even intended. Um, but like I was saying, you lose that perspective of what's it going to sound like when we're done, because I won't know until it's done. Will people like it? I have no idea. Do I like it? Yes. Is that all that matters? There's no way to it was, you know, you could easily be that people didn't take to the album as well as it is that they would like the album. So we have to do what comes out, and if people like it, that's great. But there's no there's no other option for us.
Definitely, man. Definitely, man. But you should be proud, and of course you like it because it's a hell of an album, man. And actually, My next question is also related to the creation of the album and how I perceive it. For me, everything in this album has a seal like of malignancy on it. So, do you have any special place for where that malignancy came from? I mean, because especially the first three songs of the album got me in, in the beast mood. Like, oh man, like I was feeling like I was the person on, for example, in Full Moon Fever, but also I feel like transformed with Embrace the Lie and We Are Perdition. Where all that malignancy came from?
That's a great question. I think I I don't know. It's more or less the expectation of the 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 band's legacy, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Like the songs are not going to be happy. They're not meant to be anything but just that unfiltered uh, animosity. I don't know if that's a good word. It's a aggressive. I don't know. It's just kind of a worldview,
Yeah.
and it's coming out in the music and the lyrics. I think we don't really trust a lot of the media and uh, people in power, I guess. Um,
Yeah.
and then Perdition is kind of an angry song about what's happening to the world as we destroy it slowly. Even then, that by the time you get to the last song, the plague, it's it's pretty bleak, but it scratches that itch for us, you know, to be songs of despair. I don't have. I wish I had thought about it before before the question,
Oh man,
but
for me,
I
it sounds like hope just left the building, man.
that's a good way to put it too. Yeah, it's definitely dark, and I don't think about it in those terms. I don't. You know what I mean? I didn't think about that before it came out, but now that you've mentioned it, I'm like, oh yeah, there's a lot of dread in there and some spookiness.
Yeah,
Um, just you know, hostile. Is
yeah, it's hostile, but not in a matter in a violent way, but hostile in a haunting way. I will say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I believe that's right. And it is funny because we're not really like that as people in general in the world, but
Yeah.
it comes out in the music, and I don't know exactly why, but I know that we wouldn't write too many happy songs
No,
and
definitely not.
put the Gates of Slumber name on it, because
Yeah, man.
I think Carl brought up a song that he had written was kind of more of a '70s rock song, and it was really good, but it wasn't dark. So if we wanted to record it, we were gonna maybe do it under a different name. Um, but I think we're just so singularly focused on what direction we were already in,
Mhm.
and I hadn't really thought of that. I don't know. I I, I don't know. Heavy metal, doom metal should really be anything but antagonistic and unpleasant on some level. That makes sense. I
Yeah,
mean,
man. Of course,
we're trying to
it's not for
describe
all.
things describe things and feelings that are not always nice and not necessarily the state of the world is 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 not often good. So we're singing to that
Man.
end with their fist in the air. That's all I got.
Yeah, man, exactly. I completely agree with you. Yeah, and I don't know. Doom metal is not for everyone, not for everybody. You
That's
definitely need to have a vision and a different kind of heart, maybe a different kind of 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 soul, if if you want to phrase it like that. But I'm pretty sure that anyone who really likes this kind of metal, totally will understand, will get what's behind the songs. And for me, it felt pretty natural just to embrace all the songs, all the feelings, and the concept behind the album, and just make it mine, And I'm pretty sure all the people who listen to the album will connect in some way with the lyrics, with the music and its melodies, and with the whole concept of the album.
I hope so. When you put all your heart and soul into a recording, you hope that people get a chance to hear it.
Yeah,
That's not always the case for a lot of bands, and even some of the projects that I've done in the past. So, like I said, very feeling fortunate to be in this position at all, to be able to talk to you and to be able to get the feedback that we've had. And I think that there's a future for us to keep going, if people like it. So
yeah, man,
that's good.
of course you have, and I'm pretty excited about looking forward for the Gates of Slumber. And Steve, before we wrap up, I can thank you enough for your time, for being so honest to talk to. You are a cool guy. I admire you and your work with all of your projects. You're a great musician and a great artist. And
Thank you.
before we finish, now you're welcome, man. Please help me out with a question that I can use for my next guest. As I said before, it can be anything you want: music, food, books, I don't know, TV, furniture, whatever you want, man.
Maybe let's go with books. Uh, what book changed your life when you were younger? Your favorite
Perfect, man. Yeah,
life-changing book?
perfect, man. I will ask that question to my next guest, who actually I will be interviewing later today. So please give me just a second to say goodbye to the audience in Spanish, and I'll return to you. Haters, eso es lo que tenemos en esta entrevista con Steve Janiak, el bajista de la banda de Gates of Slumber. No se pierdan, este próximo 29 de noviembre va a salir el nuevo álbum de la banda con el álbum homónimo de Gates of Slumber. Entonces no se olviden de dar like, compartir, sigan a la banda en sus redes sociales, dejaremos los links relacionados aquí en la descripción. Steve, I can thank you enough for your time, for being so cool, and congratulations. Have a terrific weekend, and good luck in your next interviews, man. I hope they are good.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome, man. Bye.
See ya.